hope everybody had a wonderful Mardi Gras, going to the parade. This is Keith Kishbaugh sitting in for Mr. Josh Guillory. And across from me is Mr. Quentin, who's the mix master. I mean, he's an absolute genius when it comes to computers. And I mean, I have to take a picture of this studio. It's crazy. Anyway, welcome to the Josh Guillory Show. I will be your host for the next 2 hours. Be gentle on me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here for Josh, especially on Ash Wednesday. I hope everybody got their ashes today. And if you didn't go to church, don't forget there's 5 and 6 o'clock masses all around Lafayette. Very important. Because like Josh and I say, at the end of the day, if you don't have Jesus in your life, you got a big problem. How are you doing today, Quentin?
Oh, pretty good. Enjoyed Mardi Gras and ready to go into the Lenten season.
40 days and 40 nights. Yep.
Yes, sir.
Today's a day of fasting. For Catholics, no meat today. On Fridays, no meat. And Fridays during Lent is a great time to fast. Not big crawfish balls, but fasting. Get Jesus in your life through fasting. So today we have a bunch of subjects. And where do you want to start, Quentin?
Let's start with AOC.
AOC, oh my goodness. Let's see, AOC. You know, my adopted daughter-in-law, yes, is a bartender. And she's also got a degree, and she's getting her master's, and she's a great bartender. So I respect people that can really do well behind the bar and get the drinks right, take care of the customers. I don't see how AOC even made it as a bartender.
I don't either.
Because, man, I'm telling you, I thought I was highly educated in history and geography. And I believe it was in Munich she was being interviewed. And, oh, my gosh, you know, she said it was basically okay to be a dictator, murder people, send drugs all over the world. It kills millions of people. But you can't have a knight in shining armor come along and save a country. And that's what Donald Trump did. But she was criticizing that.
Which is insane.
Well, it is insane. I mean, it shows you where the Marxist Democrat Party is today. Absolutely. And I'm not talking about my friends in Lafayette that are great guys. They're good people, and they're Democrats. I'm talking about the cabal in Washington, D.C. That wants to get rich off of being in a party. But, you know, in Munich, I think it was Munich, where she made such a fool out of herself. Like, again, I thought I was really educated in geography, but she's up there, and how did she say it? Venezuela. Like, Venezuela is south of the equator. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not south of the equator. And then she's starting to, what was it about horses? Oh, she was arguing that horses didn't come from Spain. Well, they did come from Spain. The American horses came from Spain through, I think, the conquistadors and the Spanish armadas. So AOC. And then I think today I heard that in the Democrat Party, she's got a 5% favorability to run for president, to be president.
I could definitely see her running, especially after the shutdown and the December shutdown, and her pushing Chuck Schumer repeatedly to keep the government shut down, and her support of the New York Mayor Mandami.
Well, who's just absolutely fallen apart in New York. Like, I understand going to Madani that they were going to hire another 5,000 police officers, and he's canceled that out because they're having such big budget problems in New York City.
Well, and remember the police officer that was recently injured on the job, he didn't go see the police officer. He went see the person who attacked the police officer.
Right.
And what kind of message does that send?
Well, they're adopting the the same thing that's going on in the UK right now with the radical Muslims. That's disgusting over there. What's going on? But when you care more about the perpetrator than the injured or the people the crime was done to, it's time to wake up, America. I mean, we got to win the midterms. We got to keep the House, maybe improve on the Senate, or we're going to be in trouble in this country.
Yeah, because the reality is, if we lose the midterms, any attempt that any progress that Donald Trump wants to make to continue to put America first, the Democrats are going to use that position to obstruct any change. And not just that, they'll probably impeach him again. There's already talks of it.
It's really a shame what the Democrat Party became. The Democrat Party of John Kennedy, I had a lot of respect for, was a great party, and we need balance in this country. We need a two-party system, but we need the old Democrat Party back. That's not, pro. What am I trying to say with this transgender effort? It's okay for men to go into women's bathrooms. It's okay to take the money from the rich and give it to the poor, which doesn't help the poor.
No, it does the opposite.
What helps the poor is fathers in the home, educate the home, send your kids to good school, spend time with them, get them off the iPhone, get them off the computer, have family dinners. Here's a novelty. Don't bring your phone to the dinner table. And what about praying over your food, thanking God for your food? Yeah, the Democrats don't believe in that. What they believe in is abortion, high taxes, open borders.
Can you imagine going back to the time of Kennedy and telling them that in 2026, their party would convince or attempt to convince the country that men belong in women's bathrooms, that mothers should abort their children, that the list goes on and on. The social change that has been pushed by the Democratic Party has done untold damage. And I think if we were to look back and look at the Kennedy perspective from that era, they would be aghast. They wouldn't recognize their country.
No, they wouldn't. And it's a shame because, the United States is a beacon of hope for the entire world. And if the United States falls under that Marxist, communist, socialist umbrella, then the world is gone. It's lost.
Absolutely. And if I remember, I think I'm attributing it to the right person. Stalin said that the Soviet Union would never conquer the United States from outward. What would happen is over time, American policy would evolve to more reflect the Soviet Union than it did capitalist society. And unfortunately, from what I've seen in my lifetime, that line has moved repeatedly.
Well, Quentin, tell me and the listeners, where has communism or socialism worked on the planet?
Nowhere, not a single place.
It works for the ruling class, the people at the top. They get filthy rich, and basically everybody else is subordinate. We're just be a bunch of slaves to the ruling class.
Well, and look at housing in the Soviet Union. You had two classes of housing. You had the standard apartment blocks that we're all familiar with, that we've seen in pictures from across Eastern Europe, but there was a second class, and the second class lived in elite apartments. They lived in what would have been normal in Russia under the Tsars for the elites. They retained that. The only thing that changed is the people had no voice, they had no rights of any kind, and they had to obey their Soviet handlers.
Well, I think the problem in the United States right now is our young people are not being educated. They're not being taught what we were taught in, junior high school and high school. Our universities have become compromised. even my son got a little compromised, who's a doctor now in Dallas, great kid. You couldn't ask for a better son. But the way some of these professors in college today teach, so it's these subliminal messages that are being planted into their heads. Everybody now is looking for free. Free, nothing is free.
And we'll be right back.
That wasn't too bad. Welcome back, Acadiana and Lafayette, to the Josh Guillory Show. This is your host, Keith Kishbaugh, filling in for Josh today, and Quentin Conway.
Conway, yes,
Conway.
sir.
Yeah, I was thinking of McHale's Navy there for a minute. For you guys that are too young to remember McHale's Navy.
I do not. I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's good. Anyway, we're going to segue into we're talking about a little bit about housing and how the government literally controls the population through housing and welfare and benefits, because if you're paying your bills and you don't need to go out to work, guess what? The government controls you, and you fall into that lifestyle, and you really don't want to lose the free check. So the government tells you what to do, and you're going to constantly re-vote those people into office. That's the Democrat Party. And look, that was Lyndon Johnson's kind of angle too.
Yes, sir.
You know, go have all the babies you want. Anyway, talking about the government and what's going on in housing, I don't know, Quentin, if you heard about what's going on in Canada.
I haven't.
Okay, so very interesting. Okay, and look, President Trump just blows my mind. Blows my mind how smart he is. Almost never uses a teleprompter and talk about anything because he's informed. I think he only sleeps 3 or 4 hours a night.
From what I've read, yes, sir.
And I mean, he really cares about our country. You know, let me just interject this. Do you know there's a prayer room in the White House?
I did not know that.
Yeah. And he's really impressed. He really believes in God. And then one guy said, well, how can you believe in God if you curse? And I'm like, well, okay. You got a glass house? Let's talk about it. So when you're going down the road, whoever you are criticizing Trump for maybe cursing here or there, okay? And they've all done it. Remember, Biden did it a few times. Not the mob, the Omar's crew, squad.
Oh, the squad.
Yeah, they curse all the time live on TV. They don't care. But if someone cuts you off at the intersection, you're going to say a few choice words.
Absolutely.
Which doesn't make you a bad person.
Absolutely.
It doesn't make you less of a lawyer or a doctor or a contractor, or radio host. It just means you're human.
I agree entirely.
You get upset. But back to housing, Canada is now saying unless you're a citizen of Canada, you can't buy our houses because there's a housing shortage. Just think if we adopted that in America.
Kick out BlackRock and the Chinese investors.
Well, they want to own everything.
Absolutely.
And Trump's trying to head that off. One of the critics was saying, well, with these big companies, Wall Street buying these houses, that's only 5% of the market. Well, 5% of the market's pretty big.
I think if 5% of the oil market were to face uncertainty, it would create some waves.
Well, the strategy for them is control, but also when they own enough property, they can control the prices. And instead of selling the houses, they just keep raising the rent, raising the property taxes, raising the HOAs. So at the end of the day, they come out, and then they get all the tax benefits of the depreciation and the lease depreciations.
And they probably control the HOAs through a management company.
Exactly, that's my point. So yeah, it's interesting what Canada's doing right now. So unless you're a citizen of Canada, they're not going to let you buy houses.
Didn't Louisiana have something where we had passed legislation prohibiting certain foreign nationals from being able to purchase farmland?
Yes. I'm going to guess right now from my memory is I think Liz Merrill might have had something to do with that. But I think with all the property that China owns in America, I think the government should just dissolve that and repossess it.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a communist country. We don't need communist factories near our military bases.
And to me, it's national security. Look at the threat that drones pose today. Look at what Ukraine pulled off in Russia just last year with having Russian semi truck drivers bring in trailers full of Ukrainian drones that then attack their bases.
Hmm. That's slick.
It was brilliant. It was effective for sure.
Well, Josh, I hope you're listening out there, brother. Send us a text. Let us know how we're doing. Well, 40 days of Lent.
Yes, sir. I, it's interesting for me looking at Lent from my perspective today and in my journey with God. I wasn't always a Christian. For me, that came later in life, and it was a path of finding God, of going through troubles and tribulations, and really running to the end point where you can only go so far with that hole basically in your soul and in your heart. And managed to reach that point, and I remember waking up the next morning, going to church, and finding peace. So when I look at Lent and the journey of discovery and reflecting on my faith, it's huge. Mardi Gras isn't just about Mardi Gras, it's about opening of Lent.
It's about, and they call it Fat Tuesday for a reason.
Yes,
And
sir.
then you're supposed to, resolve yourself to fasting, a little bit more church. Yeah, the journey. I was so impressed with Kid Rock. I don't know if some of you people out there listening, you know, I guarantee you I wasn't watching that derogatory Bad Bunny.
Absolutely
That dude
not.
is disgusting, and the young people worship him. Um, but when Kid Rock came out with his song and he talked about dusting off the Bible and Jesus Christ died for us, I mean that's historical. That's not being made up. That's fact. So I mean, Lent is supposed to be a time of renewal. Cleanse yourself. Um, just and treating people right. You don't have to give up things, but do things. Help the poor. You know, it's very important in our lives, especially have the means to help each other and pray more.
Absolutely.
I mean, I love. I was so fortunate growing up. I was raised by an Italian grandmother who prayed the rosary twice a day, and my mother had a heart condition, and she taught me all about Jesus and faith, and she never let that heart condition slow her down. And to this day, like you know, everything we have, and this is a good Lenten message. I've always realized I was so fortunate to always realize every day is a gift and do the best you can with it. But you gotta just, I mean, you have to be on that spiritual journey and have faith in something. And that's something to me. If it's not Jesus, what do you turn to when your life is falling apart? And I don't like to be tested, but faith is not faith until you're tested. And me and Jesus talk about this all the time. Okay, like, okay, why are you testing me right now? I'm trying to do the right thing, but
Right.
it happens. You just got to keep your faith, work hard, and pray. You know, uh, don't turn to drugs, turn to Jesus during Lent and all the time.
And stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break.
Welcome back to the Josh Guillory Show. This is your substitute host, Keith Kishbach, with Quentin Conway. So nice to be with everybody today. I hope you're enjoying the show, and I hope you're getting your Lent started off on the right foot. And you don't have to be Catholic to sacrifice and do good and fast. So we're gonna continue with our Lenten message, and in the second hour, we're going to talk more political and current events and things that affect Lafayette and the state of Louisiana. Phone lines are open, so we welcome your phone calls. So our Lenten message, Quentin and I we were just talking off air that about what's important in life. And to me, I was so fortunate, being raised by a grandmother, Italian grandmother in New York, right outside of New York City, and she prayed the rosary twice a day. So she really influenced my life. And then my mother, who had a rheumatic fever as a child and heart condition all her life, taught me about faith. And my mom, great mother, a lot of faith. My dad was in the Marine Corps for 30 years, so we almost never saw him. So my mom raised me and my brother, and she made sure we did everything, and we always went to church. And I watched my grandmother, who couldn't drive, walk a mile to church almost every day, half mile there, half mile back. So that's my faith based. And, in my mind, I have friends that, live from paycheck to paycheck, and then I also know multimillionaires and billionaires. And look, most of them are good people. But I tell people, it doesn't matter how much money you have in life. You're never going to fill your spirit. You're never going to feel comfortable, maybe temporarily. But you got to have Jesus in your life, and that comes through almsgiving, that comes through sacrifice, that comes through dedication. It comes through teaching your children about God and what's important. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have Jesus in your life, I hate to say it, but you're screwed. I mean, you really are. Because you're not going to live forever. And like I was telling Quentin, in my mind, there's three things you can't buy, no matter how much money you have. Okay? You can't buy love. You may think you're buying love, but no, you're just buying attention. You can't buy respect. You can buy fear with money, but you can't buy respect. And the most important thing you can't buy is grace. You have to have grace in your life. That's my Lenten message to everyone. And I hope that this Lent, especially in Lafayette, where I think we have, oh my gosh, in the Lafayette Parish, something like 75,000 Catholics, if I remember that correctly. So, and I have to mention during this Lent that I've been fortunate to be involved with several churches, and all the way back to Monsignor Segura at Fatima, Father Russo, Monsignor de Blanc, Monsignor Angel, Father Hampton Davis, and they're all great. But the one priest that was unbelievable to me was Father Gary Scheck-Snyder, who passed away last week. I was the sole musician at the 4 o'clock Mass for 9 years at St. Edmund's. I played the guitar and sang. And I did that for Jesus. I could never go out in public and do it for money. But great man, baptized 2 of my boys. And I just want you all to keep him in your prayers. His favorite song was "We Will Serve the Lord." So keep Father Gary Scheck-Snyder in your prayers. I think he's going to be viewed at St. Edmund's Thursday afternoon, and then Friday. I know the bishop is going to say the Mass. So God bless you, and I hope you're with Jesus. Well, I know you're with Jesus, because if you're not with Jesus, none of us are going to be going to Jesus. That man was something special. God bless him. Quentin was just telling me about his journey. Remarkable.
Yeah, and I was reflecting on the statue that's in basically my bedroom, where my great grandmother prayed, my grandmother prayed, at one point my father prayed, and now that's where I say my evening prayers. And it a statue of Saint Anthony. It's been there about 100 years, and to me, it's cool to have that connection to family as well as
Absolutely.
faith.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Uh, I wasn't always a Christian. I'm very happy that I returned to Christ. I am more at peace. I have better views on the world. I'm less inclined to take routes that I may have taken into my youth. Uh, but my journey of faith has really, in my opinion, made me a better person.
Well, it's going to. I
Absolutely.
mean, you know, the reason why so many people are on drugs is because they're empty. You know, they're trying to fulfill a fill a gap, fill an emptiness. And my thing is, people say, "Well, I can't sleep. I wake up," and I said, "Look, when I wake up, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I'll say a litany of prayers, and I'll go right back to sleep, and I'm at peace. But you don't have to pray all the time. You can just talk to Jesus. Just have a conversation.
I agree.
You know,
Uh, I remember in high school, I was blessed. I went to a private school, but every morning we said the pledge, and every morning we opened with prayer. And a lot of my teachers opened every class with prayer. And I didn't realize how important and how special that was then at the ripe age of 16. Looking back at it now that I'm in my 30s, and now looking at where our country has moved, I realize how important those moments were in setting not just a path of faith for so many of our youth, but also opening with something patriotic on a daily basis that reminded us to love our country, to love our God, to obey our parents, to obey our teachers, to look to God to solve our problems and have faith in His plan and His path that He has set out for us, to know that He's in control, to know that no matter what happens, we can always look to Him.
I mean, it's amazing how Jesus transforms people. I mean, look at Nicki Minaj.
Absolutely.
I mean, you
Absolutely.
talk about the just. I mean, her music has a great beat, but a lot of it was really sexual in nature. Just not that good. Look at the transformation she had, and look at the time that we needed him the most. I mean, if you don't think divine intervention kept Donald Trump alive, then you're a communist.
Especially in Butler, especially in
Oh
Butler,
my goodness,
Pennsylvania.
that was crazy. No, that's the Holy Spirit. And look, he's the first president. John Kennedy was a Catholic. He wasn't perfect, but then again, you're not expected to be perfect. I mean, look what Jesus did back in his time. He chose the motley crew of his time. The 12 apostles were not good people, but he transformed them. And hopefully he can come back and transform this country. I think he's going to do it through Donald Trump in a lot of ways. I mean, even the evangelicals, the Baptists, the Catholics, they respect what Trump is trying to do, bring God back into the country.
I
And
agree.
that's why we're falling apart. And you got to get abortion out of this country.
I agree. And it didn't really take off until the 1950s with Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood loves to talk about, oh, we only do X percentage of abortions. Everything else, we provide women's health care. The reality is, if that was the case, why is it that when abortion funding was cut under President Trump, all of a sudden Planned Parenthood is having to shut down locations all across the country? So it's either were they telling the truth that only X percentage of dollars went to abortion, or was that a main component of their business model?
It was federally funded. and it flourished under, I call him a Biden, you know. 'Cause I think it was Obama's third term, and look, you got to be careful with these silver-tongued people. You know, Obama had that.
Absolutely. I mean, Obama was a world class communicator.
Zoram is the same thing.
I agree,
You know.
and it's a wolf in sheep's clothing. And but look, we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Billy's Boudin Cracklins takes all of the guesswork out of
Welcome back to the Josh Guillory Show. This is your substitute host, Keith Kishbaugh, with Quentin Conway. Hope everybody's doing well today. God bless you. God bless America. I hope you all had a great time at the parades and everybody was safe. And I hope you're going to have a great Lent. You got 40 days to feel the Holy Spirit moving you like never before. You got to fast, help the poor, sacrifice, do all those great things to get closer to God. Quentin, how you doing over there?
I'm doing pretty good. We've had a pretty good day, enjoying the weather out, good conversation, and I'm excited to enter the Lenten season.
I am too. My stomach's growling a little bit, but it's okay.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, just a reminder, everybody, especially the Catholics, Ash Wednesday. Yeah, we went to St. Jules for noon. Father Chauvin is just absolutely amazing. I was at Fatima for many, many years, and then went to St. Peter's. I live on that side of town with Father Cambry, and he's amazing also. But I'm settled at St. Jules now, and it's been a great experience. If Father Chauvin is just full of fire and brimstone, but in a good way. Just I've learned so much from him. It's like almost every homily is like a catechism, and I love the people there. It's small, it's quaint, and just to be able to. And don't get me wrong, I miss Fatima. I was involved with Fatima for over 40 years, and I was the head usher for 15 years, head of security as a volunteer for almost 9 years. Spent 10 years with Father Russo. We remodeled the church and repaired the church, actually. And I was also a lector. I miss all that, but also at the same time, I'm just enjoying sitting in the pew and soaking it up. Now, I know I'm kind of promoting St. Jules, but if you want a catechism, and look, don't go there if you want a short homily, because Father Chauvin's 15 to 20 minutes, but it don't feel like it. And I'm going to tell you, I played the guitar and sang for 3 churches for over 25 years, and I loved it, and it was time for me to step down. But there's a husband and wife team at St. Jules that is unbelievable. Oh, my God. This woman has a voice that rivals anybody anywhere, and so spiritual. Anyway, so Friday's a good day to go to church. Friday's no meat. Today's no meat either, and sacrifice. So we're gonna close out this first segment in a few minutes, and we're gonna move into a lot more politics in the second hour. I got some interesting stuff to talk about. And, I mean, Quentin, do you have anything you want to add?
We're going to be headed to Minnesota in hour number 2. Once again, going to be looking at some hearings out there. Going to be looking at some Senate race stuff. It's going to be good. In terms of Lent, I'm thinking about where I'm going to get ashes after the show today, because I haven't been able to go yet. You were talking about some of the churches where that's going to be an opportunity and available.
You can check, but I think St. Jules is at 5 o'clock, right around the corner. And you have the cathedral. Fatima always has I'll have to check, but it's either a 5:15 or a 5:30 mass. You can get ashes there. St. Edmund's is right down the street on Congress. Well, you talk about the Catholic Church.
Right.
Have you seen that monument they're building for Lady of Wisdom, the new Catholic Church campus? Look, I've been in construction 49 years. That is an amazing undertaking. I'm going to tell you, the steel they have in that building and the design is fabulous. If there's ever a nuclear threat in Lafayette, you want to go to Our Lady of Wisdom. Not only because if something happens, you're closer to Jesus, but I don't think that place is coming down. But if you haven't seen it, drive down St. Mary and check it out. Girard Park, check it out. Incredible construction project. I know I could never handle a project like that.
I'm gonna have to definitely check it out. And we're about to have to go to break, so y'all stay tuned, and we'll be back in hour number 2.
God bless y'all. We'll catch you on the second hour, and don't be afraid to call in. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second hour of the Josh Guillory Show. This is Keith Kishbaugh sitting in for Josh Guillory, and across from me is the amazing Quentin Conway.
Good afternoon.
Actually, I thought Senator Albert Guillory was going to be here, so I called him. I said, I'm so excited you're going to help me with the show. And he says, oh, I can't make it. And I'm like, I'm glad I had both hands on the steering wheel when he told me that. Of course, I was driving hands-free. But, I mean, we would have lit it up because we're both we're both Jesus people. We're both American patriots. And, we're both trying to do the right thing for Louisiana, and that's why we're here. Oh, by the way, my person that keeps me in line in my life, Amy Reed, texts me, says, there's no 5 o'clock mass at St. Edmunds. I'm not St. Edmunds. I got Father Gary in my mind. St. Jules. There's a 6 o'clock mass at St. Jules, and it's in Spanish, but you can still go there, and either you know Spanish or you can make believe you know, but you can still get your ashes and get communion. So, yeah, St. Jules at 6 o'clock. Okay, so we're going to move into politics. I'm hoping that we get some phone calls in and put us on the hot seat.
Phone lines are open early.
Here's the chance, guys. Call in and pick our brains. Again, I'm Keith Kishbaugh, sitting in for Josh. It's a real honor to be here. Love Josh Guillory. I have so much respect for him. He's really behind the scenes, one of the most spiritual guys I know.
He really is.
He really is, and he served our military. He was in Iraq, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have so many friends in the military. Sometimes I get them confused whether they're in Afghanistan or Iraq, but he was in Iraq. Great mayor. I mean, there's people that criticize him, but I can tell you, I've been in Lafayette 53 years, owned my construction company. I started at 19 years old, and he just did so much for this city. It's a shame that, in all our lives, there's always some evil that's going to come after you, but that's okay. God knew what he was doing when we're not going to live to be 1,000 years old and have to put up with for 1,000 years. So life is short. Be positive. But a lot of respect for my boy, Josh. Smart guy, too.
He really is.
Yeah.
He's one of the kindest people I've known,
Mm-hmm.
and had the opportunity to work for and work with. If I remember correctly, when he was in office, you pretty much couldn't drive anywhere in this city and not look at some type of infrastructure project going on.
Constantly. Roads, bridges. He must have paved hundreds of miles of roads. Always some drainage project. And look, we've had some pretty good rains, but I haven't seen any real major flooding.
Right? I remember correctly, they were the first administration to set up a recurring drainage maintenance plan where all the laterals, all the coulees, all the ditches.
Keep them clean.
Yeah. It's amazing what happens when the drainage system is kept at maximum efficiency. It keeps water out of people's homes, it keeps it off the roads, and it makes our communities safer.
I could go on for a half hour on all the positive things, but as a someone like myself that's involved with politics, hopefully for all the right reasons, that's my character, but also a business person who pays a lot of property taxes, income tax, tries to beautify the city. Sometimes you need help, so you'd call the mayor, right?
Right.
He either answered the phone or he might have woke me up at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, but he always returned my phone call. And look, I'm not the only one. He talked to a lot of my friends that said the same thing. And he'd always keep me in check because, I came up in the Marine Corps and right outside of New York City. You had to fight your way home half the time. It was just a rough place to grow up. So, and my dad being in the Marine Corps, first sergeant. He raised us with an iron fist, so I had a little bit. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is I'm not as nice as Josh. Okay. Now, I was never in a war zone, but I've fought plenty of battles here at Como High and Killian High in Miami and in New York. But he always kept me in check. When I'd start, complaining about something or maybe using some choice words, he said, "Now, Kish," and this was just he and I. He said, "Now, Kish, you got to love your neighbor. Jesus wants us," and this was going on for years.
I remember
you
when
love your neighbor. Be kind. Josh, you can forgive him. I can't. Oh, you can do it.
I remember when he ran for Congress, and his go-to phrase was, "You can attract more flies with honey," and he meant it. He's someone who doesn't look to be unkind. He's always looking for a solution, and how do we remove barriers to achieving a goal and doing it ethically, lawfully, and morally. I remember pretty much every piece of guidance I've ever gotten from him has always included the words ethically, lawfully, and morally. And to me, that just speaks to the type of person that he is.
Well, and unfortunately, when you're in a political position, especially, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Years ago, I was asked to run for mayor, and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no. It's a thankless job. You're going to have so many critics. I mean, if you don't have the right person signing the right thing, you get in trouble. And then, it reminds me like Donald Trump. The Democrat side, the Marxist Democrats, are blaming him for the sewage problem in the Potomac River right now. Talking about politics, right?
That's wild.
Like, okay, so now the president of the United States is supposed to be in charge of your sewer lines?
Well, Mandami couldn't do he couldn't get the snow up off the ground. He couldn't pick up the garbage.
The trash?
He has to blame someone else.
But he did let 13 people freeze to death.
Yeah, he did do that. He ended the program that would have gotten him off the street and into a warm place to sleep. And he said he was doing it for humanitarian reasons.
Okay. So now he's Dr. Kevorkian?
Pretty much.
Oh, my gosh. What a tragedy in New York City. And look, I'm from New York, right outside of the city. My family was very strong military background. My grandmother was a Gold Star mother in World War II. It's a shame what's going on in that city. I won't even go visit, not until they get straight over there.
Can you imagine if we were to go to New York on, let's say, October 1st, 2001, and we were to tell them that this would be the outcome, that this would be the leadership structure of the city, a guy who campaigned with an unindicted co-conspirator of the 92 World Trade Center bombing, a guy who campaigned and appointed his city attorney, represented members of Al-Qaeda who were convicted. And can you imagine going back and telling the people of New York that right after 9/11, all those years ago?
Well, you get she's not smart, but she is pretty, and she has bright red lipstick. She's out there campaigning for him. You got Bernie Sanders, the dyed-in-the-wool socialists out there campaigning for him. You got the Marxist money behind him, and look, you got to give people credit for what they're good at. Just like, Obama was a community organizer in Chicago.
Right.
And when I first heard that guy talk on the TV, I'm like, man, this guy's impressive. I'm going to vote for him. He really cares about this country, and, boy, was I disappointed.
Same. Because I remember I was in high school when I first heard him speak. I thought, man, this guy's brilliant. He's got all the solutions. And then, of course, he became president, and we saw what happened.
Well, he brought back racism.
Yep.
I mean, I coached kids for 40 years in the parks, and I can tell you, I have a construction company. I have a lot of black friends. I hadn't seen racism in 30 or 35, 40 years, and then he starts promoting his agenda, uh, especially with the kid in Florida, Trayvon Martin.
I remember that.
If I had a son, he would look like Trayvon. I mean, what are you doing? I mean, you're supposed to be bringing the country together, not pushing us apart. And consequently, there was a lot of people getting hurt because of his rhetoric. But moving on to more politics, Jim Jordan, man, what a bulldog, huh?
He really is. And we're going to get more into that after this break. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the Josh Guillory Show. This is your substitute host for today, Keith Kishbaugh, and across from me is the amazing Quentin Conway.
Good afternoon.
What a wonderful day. First day of Lent.
Yes, indeed.
Love it, love it. Love Lent. Love Lent. It's a spiritual renewal for me every year.
It's hard to believe it's already February, much less almost the end of February.
Now, there's no more days. The weeks just fly by, but God bless us, man. I mean,
now I've noticed as I've gotten older that time seems to move faster. Does that ever change?
Well, I'll share a little personal story. When I was looking forward to being 40 years ago, and we had a big celebration at La Fonda and all kinds of people, and it was so cool to turn 40. And a few months later, I called my mom, who was living in Austin, Texas. I said, "Mom, today's my birthday." She said, "Yes, I know, I was there," she said. And I'm like, "Well, no, I'm 41 today." And I know I was always busy, always working hard, but I said, "Where did the year go?" She starts laughing. She said, "Son, wait till you get into your late 60s. I said, "You think time's going by fast now?" That was scary. And look, fast forward. It flies by. Every day is a gift, people.
It's like I blinked. I went from high school to my 20s, and now I'm midway through my 30s, and it's a struggle for me to accept.
My oldest boy's 34. My kid that was just playing basketball at STM yesterday is a doctor in Dallas. You know, my youngest kid, Keith David, is a pilot, and helps Father Huff with Grand Coteau. I mean, it's amazing how fast they grow. It's amazing how fast time goes by. So, like I said, every day is a gift. Thank God for it. Do the best you can with it. And with that said, let's move on to the incredible Jim Jordan has accused Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison of enabling or assisting a massive fraud scandal by accepting donations from organizations involved in the feeding of our futures case. Listen, Jim Jordan is not full of hot air. If he's coming after you, there's the evidence is there. And off air, Quentin was saying, how can $9 billion just disappear and the government knew it was going on? Well, a couple things. I've always said you can take any state in the union, California, New York, Louisiana. You take your 5 top officials in the government at the Capitol. Doesn't matter what state it is. And they're all in collusion together. You can make anything happen. And to me, that's what's happened in Minnesota.
To me, there's no way they didn't know.
They knew. Oh gosh, you can't tell. If you think you're going to sit there and try to convince Keith Kishbaugh that Ellison didn't know, that the government didn't know, that Fry didn't know,
especially
you
with
fell on your head, man. Let me tell you. And a lot of influence from the Somali community. And people say, well, how did they get so many Somalians in one area to be influential? Mass migration. It's simple. They target an area, and it's all over our country, whether it's Muslim or Somalian or whatever. You pick your race. But specifically, the Somalians came to migrate into that area and expand. That's how Ilmar got elected. And I think they're so influential with the government now that the government has to do what they're told. That's my opinion.
I agree. I mean, look at their state flag. You know, you had the traditional Minnesota flag for however long, and now their new flag almost looks like a Somali flag. And
it's just I'm taking a deep breath because you made me immediately think about Obama and his new library. That's, what, $800 million over budget?
Yeah, I don't understand how that building cost that $800 million, period.
It's simple. Someone's getting greased, or there's a lot of people getting greased, getting rich off the government because the government's paying for it.
Right.
And it looks like something that belongs at Mecca.
Yeah, it does.
You know,
it does not look like classical Western construction at all.
No, it's definitely not. So we're going to move on to the United States Senate race for Louisiana. We have Ledlow, Cassidy, and my good buddy John Fleming, he's got an amazing resume. But I'm kind of confused. I love Donald Trump. I don't agree with every little thing he does. I don't think anybody does. But he's 90%. I'm a Trump guy, and I love what he's doing with the country. Closing down our border, which Biden said he couldn't do. Getting rid of trying to mitigate the drug cartels, which seemed like nobody else could do it. Fighting this transgender, I think that's straight from Satan. I mean, basically what you're doing is saying God made a mistake. It's just terrible. I never thought I'd live long enough to see, people like Tampon Tim. Yeah, we're not only going to allow the boys to go in girls' restrooms, but we're going to put tampons in the boys' room. Okay, does that make sense? Like, if you get shot and you're hemorrhaging and you need to fill the hole with something, but that's just insane.
And taxpayers are paying for it.
Yep. But back to our Louisiana Senate race, Ledlow's in the lead. Of course, she has Trump's endorsement, but I've never been crazy about her. I think the worst of two evils, in my opinion. Cassidy, I mean, let's see, all of a sudden, he's got like earmarked $1.2 billion for Louisiana, even hitting Lafayette and coming out and saying he's going to supply $75 to $80 million for Johnson Street. Like, where you been for the last 4 or 5 years?
Right.
We could have used that money 4 or 5 years ago.
And I think it would be awesome if Johnson Street gets redone. But, yeah, where was that money a few years back?
Johnson Street is in terrible condition.
It is by far one of Lafayette's biggest eyesores, in my opinion.
Some of my friends out there are going to, like, choke on this, but I actually agree with Monique on Johnson Street.
I do as well. It needs to be redone.
54 years ago when I lived in Miami-Dade County, which is much bigger than Lafayette Parish, you could take a bicycle anywhere,
My understanding is Johnston pretty much ended at Elise's.
Oh, yeah. They had the twin drive-in right there where the theater is now. It was 2 lanes. Can you imagine Johnson Street being 2 lanes? Ambassador Caffrey was New Flanders. That was 2 lanes, New Flanders Road. College Saloon was 2 lanes. The 1976 is when they built the mall, and that was the only thing out there.
That's so wild to me. I haven't seen it built up the way it is now. Like, I can't imagine it being 2 lanes.
But anyway, Johnson Street, listen, put the telephone wires and electrical wires underground. Oh, that's going to cost too much. No, it's not. It's hurricanes come in, you don't lose your power when the power's underground. I know it's inconvenient. Put some sidewalks where people can actually walk up and down Johnson Street. Beautify it. I mean, I don't know about you, Quentin, but, I drive between my jobs all day long, and I can't find a decent road in Lafayette right now.
I go to Congress, and that's my savior to avoid Johnson Street to the best of my ability. But Johnson Street at 5 o'clock turns into a parking lot.
That's why I live on the north side, on purpose. I live with my brothers over there on the north side of town. My brothers and sisters, love it on the north side. So, it looks like Ledlow is. Well, you can't. I mean, can you consciously vote for Cassidy when he impeached Trump and wanted to throw him in jail?
And then pretends to be his friend today.
Well, nobody's buying that. I mean,
no.
As much as I'd love to see John Fleming win, it's going to be like climbing Mount Everest, I think. I mean, God bless him. He's got the credentials. He's a good, honest American patriot. Ledlow, to me, is more of a rhino. But I think she's probably going to win. I hope I'm wrong, but I think Trump will probably try to keep her in line. But I tell you what, there's a star being born. Um, Matter of fact, Moon had Larry Davis on his show, and you know, I'm on the state central committee, so he's reaching out to some of us. He's going to run against Cleo Fields, and if you haven't picked up on Larry Davis yet, uh, he's an amazing young man, um, and it's so nice to see these young, um, if you will, African American, whatever you want to be called, Black Americans. We're all Americans, but to see these young Black Americans getting into politics for all the right reasons. I mean, especially somebody like Larry, who he's got a great message. He's sincere. He's a Jesus guy. So we'll be introducing Larry more and more, and we're gonna support his effort. Moon's had him on the show. Okay, hey, God bless y'all. We'll be back in about 8 minutes, 6 to 8 minutes, to continue the final 2 segments of the Josh Guillory Show. Welcome back to the Josh Guillory Show. This is Keith Kishbaugh, Quentin Conway, the amazing Quentin Conway. Such a great guy. Getting to know this guy.
Thank you, thank you.
Love his spirituality. I mean, some things are just meant to be. How did I get asked to host on Ash Wednesday? How did I get to see Father Gary today on Ash Wednesday? Yep.
To me, it's God puts us where we need to be when we need to be there. And
Yes.
I was just talking to a colleague earlier that's going through difficulties in life, and because of where they are now, they're able to address those difficulties. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but it was they faced issues in terms of where they were going to stay, and this is a colleague that's out of the state, but they ended up getting placed somewhere where they're now able to address their family's issues more efficiently than if they would have remained where they were. And had it not been for God putting them where they are today, their family issues would not be able to be addressed. And I was laying that out to him. It's like, it's not that you have these issues that you're facing. Trust in God for the issues, because God positioned you to be able to resolve them effectively for your family.
Faith.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's, you can, I'll share this. I'm going to be 70 in July. And I look back on my life, and like, sometimes I was so disappointed when a door slammed in my face or I lost a job or something. And then so many of our gifts in life come from unanswered prayers.
Yes,
like
sir.
This, and people talk about God's plan for you. God, and look, it took me a while. I always believed in Jesus, and since I was 5-6 years old, and had like I said, I had a great, incredible mother, and my grandmother taught me so much about faith. But when you're young, you don't look at things like that, and you got to get beat up a little bit in life sometimes. But I see so many conversions all the time through the Holy Spirit, and one of our greatest gifts is to be able to do things for people. And I love being on this show. I hope you all ask me back. But Quentin wanted me to talk a little bit about my construction company for some reason. I guess because I've survived almost a half a century.
I mean, 48 years is longer than I've been on this planet. That, to me, that is one of the coolest things is being able to see a company that has established, and the year behind it, and then doing the math and realizing, wow, they have faced economic uncertainty, they've faced the economy, the waves that come through with all that, and they're still here, they're successful, and I think people are interested in what's that like? How do you develop over that many years and grow? And
It's well, we grew up poor, Marine Corps family, so we had to fix everything ourselves. Whether it's a chain that broke on the bicycle, a flat tire, or a toilet that broke in the house, or some electrical issue, we had to fix everything ourselves. So, a mechanic, we couldn't afford to pay anybody to do things. So, I was on my own since I was 19, and I had to make a living. I was in school working my way through USL. So I knew how to paint. I knew how to do small projects. So I started painting houses and remodeling bathrooms in the Saint Streets. And that's where I got my start. And I think my big chance came, or my big opportunity came, when in 1983, I was working doing the painting. I had a big painting company back then, and I was doing the painting for a construction company. I won't mention their name, but they weren't getting this particular house done in the settlement. And it was Henry Bostrick's house, who was in charge of Canizero interests. They happened to be involved with the Edmund Reggie family and the Saloom family, and Joe Canizero, developing Saloom Office Park. If you ever go down College Saloon Road, there's 3 different buildings. The first one was 2 buildings, 80,000 square feet. You know how I know that?
How's that?
Well, he kept saying, Tudor Construction stood up to steal. And they said, look, we need someone that can finish 80,000 square feet of interior improvements. And I'm like, you're crazy. I'm 25 years old. I'm going to be 26 years old. There's no way I can handle that job. Oh, no, I saw how you finished my house. The other contractor couldn't do it. So at 26, just before I turned 26, I went and got my commercial contractor's license, which I might have been. I was told I was the youngest commercial contractor in the state at 25 back then. So that's how we got our big jump. I slept 4 hours a night. Some nights I slept on the job, but we did 80,000 square feet in 6 months.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's some good. I had 95 men working for me.
Ooh.
Yep.
That is impressive to have finished that.
But look, man, I was holding Jesus' hand the whole time.
Well, that's about all the time we have for this afternoon. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
God bless you guys, and have a great Lent.
And it's game-changing for taxpayers. Hi, this is Kerry Bryson with the Bryson Law Firm. We've read the bill, and if you've been putting off a tax problem, it's time to call the Bryson Law Firm and get it resolved. This new legislation could give you a chance to get things straight with the IRS, whether it's getting caught up on unfiled returns